Coming up, we have best-selling author Scott Vedder with his great resume and interview books, breaking down resumes, interviews, different types of groups and associations that can help all the military folks out there. And I'm going to throw in law enforcement, emergency services, and the federal career folks transition to the corporate world. So this is not just corporate security based. This is all of corporate. Coming up, Scott Vedder. We'll see you. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, it is yours truly once again, the corporate security translator and the author of So You Want to Get Into Corporate Security. Now, I got something really special for y'all. This guy is an expert of all experts. I'm sure he's going to get on me later on for saying expert because some people don't like that, but he is. He is a SME in the business of resume writing. He's written multiple books about it, and he's written one just for you, for the veteran that's trying to transition from the military into the corporate security, well, I say corporate security world. He just says corporate as a whole. But this book can fit literally, because I've read it. I have a copy of it, and it can fit for law enforcement folks, emergency services folks, and federal career folks. And this is it. This book will fit for any of you. So I'm excited to have Scott Vedder here with us. Big time, Scott. What is up, my friend?
Carlos, I love it. You are hired to do my intro forever for everything.
Yeah, that's it.
Your energy is infectious, man. I love it. It's good to see you.
Coach.
Too long.
Put me in, coach. Put me in, coach. I'm excited, man. What a pleasure it is. You know, we've had the opportunity to work prior and together in a prior company, and the amazing stuff that you were doing even then on your off time, which is a project of the heart, as I say it. It's a love project because I knew how busy you were then, and to be able to pick this stuff up on the side to help all the veterans with signs of a great resume and how to write a resume, but the veterans edition part of that, which we're going to talk about and break down. So I'm really excited because I never get a chance to truly just break down resumes. I got a little bit of that in my book, but the stuff that you do, man, is great. So look, I'm going to shut up because sometimes I talk too much. I get excited, man, with like rock stars like you. When rock stars like you come on my show, I don't know what to say. So I'm just going to be quiet, my friend, and let you tell the folks a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kick it off.
Well, thank you. And thanks for what you're doing to really help people find that path to success in corporate security and beyond. My background is as a Fortune 100 recruiter. I did over 5,000 interviews before I stopped counting.
Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. Most people hate doing interviews. I loved it. It was like hosting a talk show. I got to be Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon for an hour or whatever. And, I loved it. But you get to hear people's stories. And I realized in the process that most people's resumes are awful.
Yeah.
And that is not unique to veterans or civilians.
Right.
It's just most people don't know what I'm looking for as a recruiter and how I use that information. So I wrote Signs of a Great Resume really because I wanted to vent my own frustrations, but also because I knew it would help people. And it took off. It became a bestseller. I went on the book tour, and everywhere I'd go, I'd meet veterans, and they'd say, "Hey, what about us? It's different." And I'd say, "Hey, what do I know? I didn't serve."
That's right.
My dad and my grandfather both did. They were both Army E6s when they got out, staff sergeants, and nobody helped them.
Right.
There were no transition programs in the Vietnam era or World War II. There was no Carlos back then to guide people on the journey. Yeah. So they struggled. And I made it my plan to help today's vets have a different story if I have anything to say about it. So I've become an expert in this space. I've now been twice invited to the White House, the Democratic and Republican administration.
Yes, so you have. Yeah.
And no endorsement implied, of course. It's just matter of fact. I've been to the Pentagon, the Army War College, and I get to help veterans through nonprofit groups mostly all around the country, where I work one-on-one helping them to tell their story through their resume and interviews. And it's just this month that I released my new book, Signs of a Great Interview, Veterans Edition as well.
My goodness. Let me tell you something. Listeners, if you right now, Right now, you can press pause on this thing real quick and just pull up Scott Vedder. Let's get Scott Vedder on your link hooked up so you're following him, because the stuff that he does is really that incredible. And you've been recognized by almost everybody in the military because of the awesome work that you do. And I'm a big follower of yours, and that's why I quoted you a little bit on my book, because I want people to go from my book directly to yours, because I just kind of break the surface. You go in depth, and that's a little bit what we're going to talk about today. And so I'll start with something I've seen, and then we'll kind of go down, and we, just so everybody knows, we kind of have a little predetermined list that Scott has been so awesome to put together. But I'm going to tell you a little something, and then we'll kick it off from there. Here we go. I get resumes all the time, right? That it says I was in charge of the 26th Battalion, 25th Unit of the 23rd and 24th, something like that, right? And look, even though I was a cop for a couple of years, and all the folks that work for me today are in the military, and I've been around military my whole time, I don't get it. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, what you're seeing is what a lot of civilians see, which is information they just don't understand. And so when you think about, most Americans have not served in the military and are not even 1 degree away from a veteran in their family.
Right.
So when you write the 23rd Battalion at 101st, this and that, all a civilian hears is not SEAL Team 6. Like, that's the only thing they've heard of, right?
Yes.
So you can't trust civilians to know what you're talking about, because all they know is Hollywood and headlines. And somewhere in between those two extremes is the real work that happens in the military.
Right.
That everyday heroes are doing great jobs, from everything from IT and cybersecurity to physical security, and of course flying fighter jets and dentistry and veterinarians. They got it all in the military. But when you start a conversation with a civilian and you have information on there they don't understand, it starts to make you sound a little alien sometimes. And if you know, and Carlos, and respect and appreciate the fact that veteran experience is not alien from civilian experience. There's just a slightly different variant of the English language that is spoken in the civilian world and the military world. Absolutely. We got to bridge that gap.
Absolutely. And that's what your book does. And the interview piece now, the new book, man, you and I are gonna have to get together literally just on the interview piece as well, and because we're not gonna have time. But look, we break down some amazing tips that you kind of throw it out there and write into resumes. And so let's start with that. Why don't you start breaking some down, and then we'll chat about it. I'll probably laugh in the background because you're just amazing. But I already told you I'm a fan, so don't mind me. But go ahead, man.
Well, thank you. And resumes are a dreadful topic. I'm the resume guy, and I don't like writing resumes, so don't expect you to enjoy this. But as far as making them fun, it's a low bar that we've set, so I think we'll try to reach that. The biggest mistake most people make on a resume is they write a resume that reads like a job description. So think about like an English teacher, taught English classes, graded papers, track grades, prepared students. Duh. That's what teachers do.
Congratulations. That's your job.
Yeah. You don't have to tell me that. I went to elementary school. I know what English teachers do.
My wife is a teacher. There you go.
Great. It's a great job. There's many things you can talk about besides the basics of being a teacher.
Love it.
The way you give specific examples on a resume is to use what I call the signs of a great resume. If you're watching this video, they're over my shoulder here. And if you're following along at home, these are symbols that you can literally find on your keyboard. Look down right now at your keyboard above the numbers 1 through 5 on the left are the signs of a great resume. The first one is the exclamation point. Wow, look at what I did that no one else could say. At symbol for at what point you gained relevant experience, and some numbers, dollars, and percent that help to quantify exactly what makes you a great fit for the job. When you use the signs of a great resume, your resume will speak for itself.
Man, and you talk about like the dollar sign, the values and stuff. And I've had this thing with the conversation with a gentleman that said I was in charge of the I think it was like some kind of Marine division. And I said, oh, well, great. What was the equipment that you had that you were leading? And they're like, oh, we had tanks, this, that, and the other. Oh, great. How many billions of dollars is that? Because you're leading to billions of dollars. That's what I want to know, because that's a big number. And I focused on that dollar sign, which is one of your wonderful symbols that you have back there. And I'm like, man, that's what I'm talking about. Scott is he's got it right.
Well, so thanks for that. And also, I think you're on the right track here. The more you can quantify what you've done in particular, the better and clearer it will be that you've shown past success, which is the best indicator of future success. Now, I'll caution you a little bit on the dollar sign.
Yep.
The military spends money in a very different way than the civilian world.
Yes.
And I can nearly guarantee you that you will never have $1 billion of anything in your civilian career.
Right. And you're never going to have an endless budget, just so you know.
Also that. Now, be clear, I am all for government funding, the military, whatever you need. I hope you get the tools you need.
Yep.
And I'm happy to pay for it as a taxpayer. However, that big number might not be the number that's most important to the civilian. So think about going to a corporate security job, and yeah, you secured assets worth $12 billion as a
Right.
Marine in a tank battalion or whatever.
Right.
But that 12 billion might not be the headline. Maybe it's you saved $1 million by
Ooh.
redoing how you work the inventory process and how you made security rounds more effective using labor smartly. That $1 million savings to me, the American taxpayer, and me, the civilian employer, is more relevant perhaps than the $1 billion that tanks are worth, because tanks are expensive.
Yeah, it's almost like going into project management. I did it more efficiently, time based, and it was within budget, kind of thing. I mean, that's
those are
great.
great examples of how to get the signs to work for you. Because when you give me the specific examples of what you did and you quantify them with the signs of a great resume, that's how you convey the particular value you bring to the next job.
Big, huge, huge. That's an outstanding point. There's another point that I thought was pretty funny, because I enjoyed the show, and now having a kid, I get it. And which is like, are you smarter than a fifth grader kind of show? And you have a test. You have like are you smarter than a fifth grader test for your resume? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so really, since most civilians have not served in the military, you can't assume they know more about the military than an intelligent 11-year-old child. So you have to pass what I call the smart fifth grader test with every word you write on your resume.
Yeah.
And you can't use your own kid for this if you're in the military, because their parents been in the military their whole life.
Right.
So you got to use your best friend whose mom and dad aren't in the military. Take them out for pizza, socially distanced way, and try it with them. Ask these 3 questions from my smart fifth grader test. Question 1, are you using simple language? Language so clear that an 11-year-old could understand what you say on your resume.
Love it.
And now, this is not just about jargon and acronyms. We've already talked the 79th Battalion and whatever.
Yep.
But even words you use every day in the military mean different stuff to me. So for instance, if you say deployed and you mean got sent somewhere, I think you mean how parachutes work. They deploy, ideally. If you say joint and you mean an interagency team, if I say joint, I mean arthritis or marijuana. So you got to simplify that. Even something so simple as saying soldiers.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you might call everyone around you a soldier, sailor, airman, marine, but we don't talk like that.
Right.
And every time you say sailor on your resume, instead of team member, people, employee,
Yeah.
you start to sound a little distant. And it's like, can he work well as a civilian? Because we don't have sailors.
That's right.
Simplify the language to the 11-year-old level. And here's the good news. If a retired Navy captain gets her hand on your resume, she'll understand it too.
Yes.
Because the lowest level of understanding for everyone, except she'll then say, oh, were you an NCOIC, or, oh, were you assigned to DevGru working up in Virginia Beach?
That's right. Right. SOCOM and all that stuff. Yeah, I love
exactly.
it. I love it. And the funny thing is, I tell folks all the time is that, look, we use a lot of XFN, internal, external partners. And I like the joint piece that you mentioned, because if you say joint, exactly, hey, I'm in California. I'm not saying people are smoking it, but they're smoking it, but that's definitely not what we want out of this. So we want you to succeed. And again, look, if you haven't had the opportunity, right now is a great time. Just put pause on this thing. Signs of a Great Resume, Veterans Edition, how to write a resume that speaks for itself. And then you go and you plug in the same thing, change the word from resume to interview. Get that book too, because I'm telling you, you're going to need it. This is it. This is it. Okay. So look, I got another one for you. I tell people all the time, SWAT. I get sometimes, this is law enforcement a little bit, but you get in the military too. Guns, guns, guns. I kick down doors. And I go, man, you will never use that in the corporal, but I do need to know your leadership through those processes. I need to know the planning that went into those processes. I need to know what did you do to keep the people safe while going through those processes. I don't need to know that you kick down doors. Sounds great. I love it and all. And the next point that you make is kind of like you use the word patriot as a way to kind of convey that message. What's that about?
Sure. So Patriot's an acronym I came up with to articulate the values that I think every veteran, reservist, and military spouse, by the way,
Yep.
brings to the civilian workforce. Because I really think veterans are some of our best employees, and the Patriot acronym explains why. It stands for, the P is I possess values. I'm accountable. I'm trainable. I'm respectful. I take initiative. I'm on time, and I'm a team player. When you use those Patriot acronyms to explain and get into the details of how you accomplished what you did with the signs of a great resume, that's how you show those moral compass values, that serving something greater than yourself, and all of the leadership traits that I think every service member demonstrates. From the moment you raise your hand to serve, you're demonstrating personal leadership, even if you're managing nobody but yourself.
That is absolute. One of the things that I tell folks all the time, you're a leader. And one of the things that a lot of companies need today are leaders, people that are focused, that can set a mission and get the team to that mission. What a lot of times, I just had an interview with my buddy Altaf Bora. He was a special forces guy. You've dealt with a bunch of them because I follow you. And a lot of times in the corporate world, they miss the mission. They're like, where's my mission? What is it that I do? But that's it. It's because the corporate world a lot of times is missing the mission. So they need your leadership to get them to the mission. So this is muy grande, as they say in Spanish. Huge, my friend.
Bien grande usar la Patriot term.
That's it. Muy grande patriot. That's right. You use that. So, but there's an issue, though, with all of that, because I've been in the military, and in my case, as I talked to a lot of law enforcement, emergency services, and folks in the federal careers, too, I've been in this gig for so long that I don't even know where to start, man. I can't even, where do I find my whys, my storytelling, my resume, I don't know, the gravitas that actually translates to the corporate world? And what do you know about that? Can you help me? I don't know.
Well, the good news is I might not help you as much as Uncle Sam can help you there, because he's a meticulous record keeper.
Yeah.
So all you got to do is log on to the National Archives, and they have saved all of your evals and fit reps. And you can go back and get data from whenever you wrote it to start filling in what are the examples that you may not have remembered because it was 6 years ago or 20 years ago that you had a relevant accomplishment. All experience is subject to being included as long as it's relevant experience. And if you can use the signs of a great resume to talk about what you did through the information on your evals in a way that a fifth grader would understand it, you've already half written your resume already.
I love it. God, that's it. You're hired. You're hired. Can you write me a resume and an interview book that deals with the military, please? Thank you.
Done. You got it, bro.
Got it. All right. So look, there's a couple of things, and I just had this conversation the other day with a gentleman, a special forces gentleman, that in his entire career he's had 19 jobs, 20 jobs, because every couple of years, you know how it works. They do a rotation thing. Now I need to focus. On kind of what my resume is going to look like. And this is a little bit of off the beaten path here, but how do you go about telling folks hey, you got to look at the outside world and see really what you're interested in and compare it to your career? Because one thing that I've gotten is people can't really translate it. And they got a bunch of different types of jobs that they're interested in, and I just don't know which one to pick and what to do. Man, help me.
So a couple different things there to unpack. First of all, it's important to understand your why in the next chapter of your career, getting back to a sense of mission. So there's a lot of great organizations that help to get you there. One I work with is called the Commit Foundation. I recommend you check them out. And as you get to why you do what you do, you can then start to explain that as the focus of your resume. Most people write resumes job by job and place by place, which is fine when the next thing you want to do directly connects. So if you're a veteran doing physical security for the military and you want to go do physical security for a big company, well, it might make sense to stay talking job by job. For others, you might shift to talking about skill by skill. And maybe you talk about a bucket of skills like leadership, for instance, maybe a bucket around how you train and develop others, and another around how you manage projects. Then give a timeline of what you did in the military, because it's very seldom when and where you did something that is as valuable as what you did that relates to the civilian job opportunity. And here's a simple filter to put on your resume. Yes, your name is at the top, but this resume is not about you. It's about what you can do for me, the new employer.
Oh,
Everything you write has to be filtered with that in mind. And it means that there may be things in your career that were significant. You're proud of them. They made a real difference in the world. Well, great. I'm glad you did them. But if they don't relate to what you can do for me, you
right.
might not need to tell me about them. And
Oh,
a very simple way to use that filter, both in how you set up your resume and in each bullet you include, is to read what you're writing and ask yourself, so what? What
oh.
is the new employer going to do with this information?
That's incredible. That's incredible. Again, everybody, if you're listening to this and you're a military, part of the military personnel, spouses, right? I missed that one earlier, Scotty, but spouses too. You're living the life. You're involved. You're in it to win it, and it is what it is. So this would be great for you as well. Signs of a great resume. And I think everybody, if you don't have a chance to see Mr. Scott Vedder, hook up with him on LinkedIn and everything. He's doing some amazing things. But Scott, I got something then for us to kind of continue on this conversation. I usually tell folks that you have to do all these things, but at the same time in the background you have to create a little bit of relationships. You have to go out there and reach out to some groups. And I always tell them, look, if you want to get into the tech industry, that's what you think it is. Go try to connect with a couple of tech folks and ask for their time. If you want to get into kind of the hospitality industry, go connect with some of the hospitality because they'll tell you what the job is about. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I like to say the best way to apply for a job is not to apply for a job. The, the best thing you can do is exactly what you're talking about, Carlos. It's building relationships where people get to know you and legitimately. So it's not like, hey, I'm looking for a job, so I'm going to butter you up.
Yeah,
No, build a legitimate relationship that helps you learn. So let's just use a big tech company. Let's just say Tesla. All right, they're doing a
sure.
lot of interesting techie stuff from space to cars.
Yeah,
If you want to work at Tesla and you're an Air Force vet, you are not the first Air Force vet to work at Tesla.
right.
So get on LinkedIn, type in Tesla Air Force, and see who you find. I
Oh,
can almost guarantee you are going to find a veteran that works at Tesla already and has come before you in this journey, who more than likely will help you at least learn about their experience. Because
yeah.
I'll put it to you, if you're serving right now, 5 years from now, if some vet comes to you and says, hey, could you help me learn a little? Wouldn't you say yes? You better. Because if not,
Oh,
I'm so we're all in this together. And if you can't find an Air Force vet at Tesla, you swallow your pride and type Army, and then
yeah,
Navy, and then Marine. And you get work your way to Space Force and Coast Guard and see who's there.
yeah.
And just ask, hey, I'm looking to pick your brain. Can I learn a little about what makes an Air Force vet successful at Tesla? And I bet
Wow.
you people will be willing to make a relationship with you and help point you on your way.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I've learned about military folks and all the other folks that I usually follow, law enforcement, emergency service, and federal career folks, is that they love to help. But humans as a whole, they want to help. It's like a necessity that we have to want to go out there and help folks. And this is a great way. This is a great way of doing it. But that's what I tell them. I said, hey man, just you might want to reach out because the last thing you want to do is go into a culture and two, a second career out of the military that you're just going to despise. You didn't do a lot of work in it. It was sexy to get into, but you didn't do your work, and the culture's totally different, and all these other things. And it's just, it's a difficult process.
You're right. And there are plenty of people who volunteer to help with this information through groups like American Corporate Partners, ACP, and Veterati. So that's
Ah,
VETARTI.
I am.
And you can go on and find vet mentors. Are you a mentor?
I'm a mentor, man. I'm a Veterati mentor. Yes, I am.
That's great. And so you can become a Veterati mentor. All you've got to be is an expert in whatever you do. You don't have to be an expert on the military or transition or even a vet. I'm a mentor. I'm not a vet. But you go on there and say, hey, I want to learn about this. And there are professionals in the civilian world who say, yeah, I'll give you a couple of minutes. Sure, book some time on my calendar and you have a quick call. And it's just that exploration because Carlos, you're right, man. We are a social species, and we need those relationships, and we need a sense of community and a culture that we feel we can thrive in. And a vet who's come before you can tell you, look, the Marine Corps values are alive and well in this company. And there is a sense of esprit de corps, if you will,
Yes.
although not a military one, at this company that I think you will appreciate. And I appreciated it working here, for instance.
Man, I mean, a lot of great stuff, and I'm going to make sure. By the way, I'm going to tag all these names that you're giving me, and if any other names you give me, I'm tagging on this thing because I think it's important for everybody to get an opportunity to go out there. And let me tell you, all the folks out there, Veterati is one that I'm involved with. So get on Veterati. I don't get enough actually mentorship calls. I wish I would get more so I can give more back. So we're there. It's available. And then if those are not available, by the way, best-selling author once again, Scott Vedder, hanging out with me. Grab his book whenever you get a chance, and I'm gonna keep on plugging this thing, man. I don't care. I have no shame. I'm gonna plug you until the date comes, my friend.
I agree.
So we got about 5 minutes or so, and so I just want to pick your brain then on a couple of things. Some of the biggest things that you see out there that veterans come to you and say, "Hey, man, how do I get through this?" Maybe one or two or three possible tidbits of the top items that they come to you about that you can share with the folks.
Well, I'll start with a quick story. I was working with a 2-star coming out of Army Special Forces.
Yep.
And he said to me, Scott, last week, I kind of felt like an idiot. I said, why? He says, I went to AT&T. You see, I don't know how to buy a cell phone. The Army has handed me every cell phone I have ever owned. How the hell do you think I feel trying to write a resume?
Right.
And it's true. This is new. It's uncharted territory for almost all veterans. And it's just a new skill you haven't done before. Yeah. So a lot of what I'm telling you today probably sounds like common sense once I say it out loud. It's just not common practice for you. So it's important that, like this 2-star and like people at any rank in any branch, you reach out and you ask for help. It's not asking for a handout. You're just asking to learn a new skill that you don't already have.
Yeah.
I really think veterans are some of the best employees in the civilian workforce. You're just some of the worst job candidates sometimes. And that's where I come in, is there are plenty of people that are willing to help and give you some insight along the way. And I'll also say that with a word of caution. You can ask 100 recruiters our opinions about resumes. You'll get 150 opinions about resumes or more.
Yeah.
What you'll never hear a recruiter say is, candidate made it too easy to see why she's a great fit for this job. You know,
I've never gotten one of those. And I review a bunch of resumes as well, and it's I've never had one. I'm like, wow, this resume is just too amazing. It's great.
Right. It's not going to be. And if the best feedback you're getting is about your font, your layout, what you can put in a header or not, you're getting advice from the wrong people. The best advice is use the signs of a great resume to write that resume that speaks for itself. And when you talk about what you in particular bring to a new opportunity, you're going to stand out from the competition. And here's the other thing I'll say that veterans often seem to struggle with, is they don't like talking about themselves.
Yes.
There's this idea of selfless service, and I get it.
Yes.
To that I say, good, I don't want you to talk about yourself. I want you to talk about what you can do for me. So there is no I in team, but there are 2 I's in interview, and one of them is the first letter. So I do need you to talk about what you individually did, but I don't need you to worry about that sounding like you're discounting the experience of your colleagues, your battle buddies. Quite the contrary. When you showcase what you bring to the civilian workforce, you're teaching an employer what they get when they get a veteran on their team. You are exemplifying the reason why it's important to hire veterans at all layers of the organization, at all stages of their career. And you might just be forging the path for another veteran who might struggle in their transition. So definitely talk about what you have individually accomplished and make it just about the facts. The signs of a great resume are the way to show just the facts.
I love that. And I am going to add a couple things. Usually I talk about it as a police officer because I can. I was one, and I have written notice from all police officers that I'm allowed to speak this way about it. But once you get in, be humble. Be willing to learn. It's almost a reset. You're starting a new career again. You might have been that 2-star, 1-star, whatever the case might have been, but this is like a brand new field for you. So be open-minded, be courteous, be nice. And the ones that succeed, can do that transition mentally, because you have to mentally prepare yourself for the corporate world. I'll tell you, I work for Facebook, and they allow me to say this, but the culture is different. It's a different type of culture, and it's not so rigid because we're open, and it's an open campus, and we move fast, and we don't have time to be rigid. And sometimes some folks, especially in law enforcement world, when they transfer into into the corporate setting, it's all about calm, cool, collected. You got 6-8 months to learn. Take your time. Be nice. Be polite. Be willing to learn, and all those wonderful things.
You weren't an expert at the Army when you first enlisted or commissioned in. You had to learn that too. Right. And by the way, if this equation went the other way, I've got 20 years experience. You wouldn't be like, oh, well, welcome to the Army, Lieutenant Colonel Vedder. We can't wait to get you started. Here, put this leaf on your shoulder. You'll be. No, I would not be set up for success. So just like if I were to go into the Army today, I'd have a big learning curve ahead and have to learn the culture. You're going to have that too. And it's okay to take a job that is not that next big promotion or the CEO, because you're not prepared yet for your fullest success. Take that time to learn and appreciate and be intellectually curious about what you can learn in the process.
Well, my friend Scott, thank you, everyone. That was Scott Vedder. And I'm sorry we ran out of time, but we'll do this again because it was a heck of a lot of fun. And you're just an awesome guy. Once again, best-selling author, Signs of a Great Resume, How to Write a Resume That Speaks for Itself, and then Signs of a Great Interview. A book is just out. Go get them. It's exciting. Scott, thank you for your time, my friend. You're awesome.
Carlos, thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody, for listening in, and let's connect on LinkedIn.
Hey, connect with Scott on LinkedIn. So listen, we covered a bunch of stuff with Scott, and he's just an amazing guy. He'll be able to tell you everything about interview and resumes, down to the detail. Get his book. It'll be on the link. I'm excited about it. Thank you, Scott. For everybody out there, once again, as the corporate security translator and the author of So You Want to Get Into Corporate Security, hanging out with you, my main man, Signs of a Great Resume, Scott Vedder, Veterans Edition. This is it, and we're out. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.